So, Guild Wars 2 group content is pretty reliant on specific roles. With the kinds of challenges bosses and their arenas present, encounters are just way more comfortable, approachable, and flat out easier when people specialize. It also turns out the content is easier when no one is dying and when everyone has a long list of buffs on their bar. That's why we have healers. The player with the stats, traits, and skills all selected explicitly for this purpose alone. Almost every casual squad or LFG group will be looking for at least one of these, typically one in each subgroup for squad content. If you're picking up your first healer, welcome! This video is meant for beginners or players who want an easier time picking up new healers step by step. This process is also how I generally go about figuring out setups myself, both for ones I'm using a reference for or ones that I'm crafting myself. First, you'll need to actually select which build you want to run. There's a decent number to pick between, and each profession has at least one that's a solid pick. You can choose whatever's already familiar to you, whatever seems approachable or interesting, or follow whatever the meta happens to be when you watch this. You should definitely browse through builds. I personally recommend the website Snowcrows. They're the site I write for, so bias admitted, but generally this is where all the spreadsheet makers work together, so you'll be getting a better, more up-to-date setup from them. If you go to the raids section, then sort by role and pick healing, you get a list of all heal builds to pick between, easy as that. It's recommended you skip over the celestial options for your first healer though, since they're trading group support for damage. For the purposes of this video, I've selected Heal Spectre and Heal Catalyst as builds I'm going to go through. Ascended gear is expensive. If you've got some leftover drops, a bunch of legendaries, or enough gold lying around to fund a set, then that's great. But if you're a beginner trying out your first heal build, then Ascended level gear might just not be an option. There's some good news here. Most healers will be completely functional in exotic gear. The performance decrease is not large, so we can get away with going eco and losing a few percentages of boon duration. Most healer boons have a comfortable overcap, so this is fine. For weapons, go Candy Cane on the trading post. They're sitting at 60 to 90 silver apiece at time of writing. They're giver stats, they're exotic, they're just what we're looking for. They'll increase your toughness, so keep an eye on that stat for the purposes of choosing your group's tank, but healers are typically assigned tanking duty, so this isn't really a major concern. For armor, the best bet is TEID07, this guy. It's a golem and you're spawned for it on World v World battle maps. If you've done World v World content, you can turn badges of honor into exotic stat-selectable armor on the cheap here. If you wanted hairier weapons instead of giver, this is a good way to get those. Tangle Depths and other maps can also be used to get stat-selectable exotic armor if this isn't an option. Crafting can run a little expensive, but you can also do that. Trinkets are weird. They mostly cost you time instead of gold for the Ascended versions. Multiple living story maps let you trade a resource or currency to get an Ascended trinket, and since trinkets have such high stat values on them, it's probably worth just going through the trouble and getting a set to keep now. Especially since if you end up switching healer builds, Ascended trinkets can be swapped between all characters and are never soulbound. Bitterfrost Frontier and Dragonfall are two popular options for this method. Runes and sigils don't have good replacements. You'll likely need to spring for these too. In some cases there's a budget version, but if you replace like a water rune with altruism or something, you're down a whole 10% on boon duration you won't likely be getting back. Use the original rune for the build. Relics are really case by case. Some builds rely on the relic slot to cover a missing boon, like Febe or Midnight King. In some cases the relic is far less consequential and can be replaced with minimal downside. Check with your build before you cheap out here. And do not bother with infusions unless you've got nothing better to do with your gold. Do not bother with infusions. The heal build you've selected may require certain expansion-locked advancements to play as suggested on a build page. Many relevant support relics come from expansions like Secrets of the Obscure, and weapons like Staff on Warrior and Spear on Guardian are expansion upgrades, and so are options like using Herald's Shield as a heal Renegade. So before you put together a healer, make sure that you have access to all of the tools necessary as well. Next up, it's time to read up. Try to make sure you're familiar with what to expect playing the build. Just take a good read down the whole build page, try to take it all in, top to bottom. While you're doing this, pay extra attention to any callouts on the page, open expanding segments, and do what it takes to memorize the basics. You can also make some notes if you want. You can put them up on a second screen if you like. For Spectre, we should probably set up that keybind though. At the start of a fight, we want our squad to get all their boons as quickly as possible so the team can start with good damage right away. That's where we use the opener, a short series of skills that the build always starts with to quickly stack all of its boons as soon as possible. Since it always starts here, it's a great spot to begin practice. The page will list an opener. It might make total sense to you on the first read, or maybe you'll need to compartmentalize it a little bit. You can take it in stages or layer in extra skills, whatever makes the most sense. For our example of Heal Spectre, we just need to cast a Well, a Scepter 2, a Shroud 2, F1 Auto, and a Shroud 2 again. By the time we've finished all that, our subgroup will have 25 Might, Fury, Alacrity, Protection, Regeneration, Swiftness, Vigor, and more. For our other example, Catalyst's opener is a little longer since it needs to cast each attunement sphere to get all of its boons going. It starts with Fire for Might and blasts a fire field a lot to get fast might at the start. Then it cycles to Earth, Air, and Water again, hitting every skill that gives a boon or blasts a field along the way. This one will take a little more practice to make perfect. Here's me doing it a bunch. Once we know how to start the fight right, we can focus on upkeep. Check the page for a rotation concept and important boon sources to stay on top of, and try to upkeep the buffs while hitting the golem. For Spectre, Seisan has recommended we enter Shadow Shroud frequently to keep the squad supplied with alacrity and healing, and use initiative skills liberally outside of Shroud for boons and barrier. Catalyst's concept has us rotating through attunements for spheres, for soothing mists, and to use some specific staff skills. Dánmander also lets us know about the big boon overcap on the build, meaning the rotation is extremely freeform. Actual healing is up next. We're going to use another feature for this. The Special Forces training area lets us make a big, angry damage field and tweak how much DPS it'll hit us with. Depending on your toughness, you might need to increase or decrease the threat level to get a proper test. Take a peek at the healing segment of the build page, take stock of all the buttons that heal your team, and see how well you can keep yourself alive in the field. Once you've got the hang of it, try doing the opener and maintaining boons while healing through the damage. Once you've gotten all that down, you're ready. Next, take the build to a strike mission LFG, or a easy raid encounter LFG. That's a cool change. Guess I gotta put that in the script now. Take the build to an easy piece of content, something low pressure, with friends or off the LFG window, and give it a go. Make sure you're not dropping boons. It might help to examine fight logs afterwards to see if you've slipped on anything. Arc DPS is a good tool for this. As you get more confident, try out more challenging encounters until you've got it mastered. If you're in a server or guild that trains raids, consider using those runs as an opportunity to try out your new heal build, since those settings carry expectation to wipe a few times, making for a combination of a low-stakes environment and chances to practice your burst healing on teammates who are training for the Standing in Bad Olympics. Make sure to read through extra guide content available for your build on the site as well if it's available. Often there's a lot of extra good stuff to know packed into there, like extra options and good setups for bosses. Once you've mastered one heal build, it's time to do it all again. There's 2 key boons after all, so the next step is having one of each, or just picking whatever seems fun or useful. Hopefully this guide proves helpful for those of you out there putting together heal setups for the first time, or those of you looking to try the new heal builds coming with Visions of Eternity. Look forward to a chunk of healer updates when it drops. If you watched this far, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this, and share this video around. My hope is that it reaches as many new healer players as it can, especially that guy in your static that only plays like 2 DPS builds. Send this to that guy. Anyway, check Snow Crows in like a week when the expansion drops. Cheers!